I'm Sarah, 22 years old, and 3 months ago my own mother destroyed my future with a credit card I never signed for. 487. That was my credit score, tanked by $47,000 in debt I didn't know existed, all opened in my name by the woman who raised me. This wasn't the first time I paid for her lifestyle, but it was the last. Stay until the end, because what happened at that family dinner changed everything. The room went silent. My mother's face went pale, and for the first time in my life, I didn't apologize. But first, let me tell you how I got here, and why I almost let her get away with it. 3 months earlier, I was sitting in a leasing office with butterflies in my stomach. The apartment was nothing fancy, a studio on the third floor of a building that smelled faintly like carpet cleaner. But it was mine, my first place. I had the deposit ready, the first month's rent saved, and a folder full of pay stubs from my new job as a junior accountant. The leasing agent, a woman named Pam with reading glasses perched on her nose, typed something into her computer. Then she stopped. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. She looked at me with that expression, the one people give you when they're about to deliver bad news but don't want to be the one saying it. "I'm sorry," she said. "Your application has been denied." I laughed. I actually laughed because there had to be a mistake. I had no debt, no credit cards. I'd been careful my whole life, saving money, paying for everything in cash or debit. Pam turned her monitor toward me. "Your credit score is 487, she said. "You have 3 delinquent accounts and an auto loan in collections." The number sat there on the screen like an accusation. 487. I knew enough about credit to know that was catastrophic. That was, you can't rent an apartment, you can't finance a car, good luck ever buying a house territory. "That's not possible," I said. "I don't have any credit cards. I don't have a car loan." Pam slid a piece of paper across the desk. It was a summary printout from the credit bureau. The printer in the corner whirred and spit out the full report. 3 pages, each one a knife. I sat there holding that paper like it was a diagnosis I didn't ask for. I drove home in a daze. The credit report sat on my passenger seat like a bomb I was too scared to touch again. But I kept glancing at it, hoping the numbers would somehow change. My mom's car was gone when I pulled into the driveway. Good, I needed time to think. I sat at the kitchen table and spread the pages out in front of me. Line by line, I went through every account. First credit card. Opened when I was 18. Billing address. This house. Credit limit. $8,000. Balance. $12,400. Delinquent. Second credit card. Opened when I was 19. Same address. Credit limit. $5,000. Balance. $7,800. Delinquent. Third credit card. Opened when I was 20. $15,000 limit. Balance. $18,200. Delinquent. And then the auto loan. $19,000. Opened 2 years ago for a vehicle I'd never seen, never driven, never signed for. Except I had seen it. Every single day. It was the car my mother drove to work. My chest tightened. I remembered her asking for my social security number when I turned 18. For health insurance, she'd said. Then again a few months later, "I need your ID to refinance the house, just a formality." I'd handed everything over without question, because that's what family does. That's what I'd been taught. But now, looking at these accounts, the dates lined up. The addresses matched. The phone number listed as the primary contact was hers. The email was hers. I wanted to believe there was another explanation, a clerical error, identity theft by a stranger. Then I heard it. The garage door grinding open, the engine of that $19,000 loan pulling into the driveway. I stared at the credit report and listened to my mother park her debt in our garage. She walked in carrying grocery bags like it was any other Tuesday. "Hey, honey," she said without looking at me. "Can you help me put these away?" I didn't move from this table. The credit report was still spread out in front of me, and I watched her face as she finally noticed it. "What's that?" I slid the papers toward her. "My credit report," I said. "Want to explain why I have $47,000 in debt I never opened?" She set the grocery bags down slowly. Her eyes scanned the pages, and for just a moment, maybe 2 seconds, I saw something flash across her face. Recognition. Then it was gone. I don't know what you're talking about. Mom, your email is on these applications. Your phone number. This address. She crossed her arms. You probably just don't remember signing up for things. You were young. Kids forget. I was 18. I would remember opening a credit card. Her jaw tightened. What exactly are you accusing me of? I'm asking you a question. Did you open these accounts in my name? The silence stretched between us. I watched her calculate. I could see her deciding which weapon to pull first. She chose guilt. I raised you by myself, she said, her voice dropping to that wounded tone I knew so well. 22 years, alone. And this is how you repay me? By accusing me of— I didn't accuse you of anything. I asked a question. Her eyes hardened. Then she chose anger. You know what? If you're so smart, then pay your own bills. She grabbed her purse and walked to her bedroom. The door slammed so hard the picture frames rattled. I sat there in the silence she left behind. She didn't deny it. She just made it my fault. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my childhood bed staring at the ceiling, and the memories started coming back. Not as accusations, not yet. Just as pieces of a puzzle I'd never thought to assemble. I was 18, senior year of high school. I'd just gotten accepted to state, and my mom threw a small party. Just the two of us and a store-bought cake, but she seemed proud. I remember feeling like I'd finally done something right. A few weeks later, she sat me down at this same kitchen table. I need your social security number, she said. I'm adding you to my health insurance since you're going to college. They need it for the paperwork. Made sense. I gave it to her without a second thought. Then, maybe 2 months after that, I need to borrow your driver's license, just for a day. I'm refinancing the house and they need another person's ID for some reason. Legal stuff. That didn't quite make sense, but I was 18. What did I know about refinancing? My mom handled all the bills, all the paperwork, everything. She'd always told me not to worry about adult stuff until I had to. So I handed over my license. She photocopied it and gave it back. I didn't know I was signing away my future. I thought I was helping my mom. Looking back now, I can see it clearly. The first credit card was opened 2 weeks after she got my social security number. The applications had a copy of my driver's license attached. She didn't wait. She didn't hesitate. The moment I became legally useful, she used me. And I spent the next 4 years completely unaware, while the debt piled up like snow on a roof, silent, heavy, waiting to collapse. The memories kept coming. I was 19, finishing my sophomore year. I had a part-time job at the campus bookstore, minimum wage, maybe 15 hours a week. Every spare dollar went into a savings account I'd opened myself, $800 after an entire summer. I was proud of that money. Then my mom called crying. Sarah, I need help. I'm behind on the mortgage. They're going to take the house. My stomach dropped. The house? Our house? Where would she live? How much do you need? She paused just long enough. 800 would save me. Just until I get my next paycheck. I'll pay you back, I promise. I transferred the money that night. All of it. Every dollar I'd saved. 2 weeks later, I was scrolling through Facebook and saw her post. A photo of a new designer handbag. One of those with the interlocking letters that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. The caption said, "Treated myself. Sometimes you just need a pick-me-up." My thumb hovered over the comment button. I wanted to ask. I wanted to say something. But then I imagined her voice. You'd really question your own mother over a bag? So I didn't comment. I didn't call. I just told myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe a coworker bought it for her. Maybe she found it at a thrift store. Maybe the mortgage thing got resolved another way. I made excuses for her because the alternative was too painful. The alternative was admitting that my mother had looked me in the eyes, told me she was about to lose her home, and then spent my money on a handbag. I wasn't ready to believe that. Not then. But lying in bed 4 years later, I believed it now. Then there was the car. I remember the day she drove it home. I was 20, back for winter break. I heard an unfamiliar engine in the driveway and looked out the window. My mom stepped out of a silver sedan, brand new, still had the dealer plates. I walked outside. "You got a new car?" She beamed. "I traded in the old one. This is so much better on gas." It was nice, really nice. Leather seats, backup camera, all the features her old car didn't have. I remember thinking she must have gotten a good deal on the trade-in. I didn't think about it again. Why would I? It was her car, her purchase, her business. But now, sitting with that credit report, I looked at the auto loan again. Opened the same month, same amount as the dealer sticker would have been for that model, $19,000. In my name. She drove to work every day in a car I was paying for. A car I didn't know existed on paper. A car that was destroying my credit with every missed payment while I took the bus to my campus job. I thought about all the times she complained about how hard she worked, how much she sacrificed, how I didn't understand what it took to raise a child alone. "I sacrifice everything for you," she used to say. Everything. I used to feel guilty when she said that. I used to feel like I owed her something I could never repay. Now I understood. She had already arranged the repayment herself. She just never told me about it. She drove to work in my debt every morning and came home to tell me how ungrateful I was. That was the moment the guilt started to crack. The last memory was the freshest. 2 months before I found the credit report, I graduated from college. 4 years of studying, working part-time jobs, scraping by on ramen and determination. I had a job lined up. I was about to start my life. My mom insisted on throwing a party. "Nothing big," she said. "Just some family. You deserve to celebrate." I didn't want a party. I wanted to save money for my apartment deposit. But she kept pushing, and I didn't want to seem ungrateful. So I said, "Okay." The party was at our house. Aunt Brenda came, Uncle Joe, a few cousins. My mom ordered catering, trays of food, a custom cake with my name on it, even a balloon arch. It was more than I expected. At the end of the night, after everyone left, she handed me an envelope. "For you," she said with a smile. I opened it expecting a card, maybe a small check. Instead, I found a bill. $1,200. Catering invoice made out to me. "I threw you this party," she said. "The least you can do is pay for it." I stared at the invoice. "You told me this was a gift." She laughed like I'd said something naive. "Nothing in life is free, Sarah. You should know that by now." I paid it. I paid it because the alternative was a screaming match in front of the dishes that still needed washing. I paid it because I didn't want to ruin the memory of my own graduation. I paid it because that's what I'd always done. That was 2 months before I found the credit report. And it was the last time I paid for her silence. Looking back, I should have known then, but sometimes you don't see the pattern until you're drowning in it. A week passed after the confrontation with my mom. We lived in the same house but moved around each other like strangers. She acted like nothing had happened. I couldn't pretend that well. At work, I must have looked as bad as I felt, because Marcus noticed. Marcus Webb was a senior accountant at my firm, 34, calm, the kind of guy who never raised his voice, but somehow commanded every room he walked into. We weren't close. He was senior staff, I was entry level, but he'd always been decent to me. That Thursday, he caught me in the break room staring at my coffee like it held the answers to the universe. "You okay?" he asked. I meant to say yes. I meant to say fine, just tired, the usual deflections. But something in his voice, steady, unhurried, genuinely curious, made the words spill out instead. I told him everything: the credit report, the accounts, the car, my mom's reaction. I talked for 10 minutes straight, and he didn't interrupt once. When I finally stopped, he nodded slowly. "5 years ago," he said, "I cut off my dad. Best decision I ever made. I blinked. I didn't know what I expected him to say, but it wasn't that. He leaned back in his chair. What she did isn't love. It's theft. And you're allowed to call it that. Theft. Such a simple word, such an obvious word. But hearing someone else say it out loud, someone who wasn't me, someone with no reason to lie, made it real in a way it hadn't been before. This is identity theft, Marcus continued. You have options, legal options. You don't have to just accept it. He pulled out his phone and texted me 2 numbers, one for the FTC identity theft hotline, one for a legal aid service. I saved them both. That weekend, I became an investigator. I called the FTC hotline first. The woman on the phone walked me through the process: how to dispute fraudulent accounts, how to place a fraud alert, how to request documentation from creditors. Request the original applications, she said. They're legally required to send them. If the signature doesn't match yours, that's evidence. So I called each creditor, one by one. The first call took 45 minutes. I was transferred 3 times, put on hold twice, and had to explain my situation to 4 different people. But eventually, they agreed to mail me the original application. The second call was faster. The third, faster still. By the end of Sunday, I had requests submitted for all 4 accounts. 2 weeks later, the envelopes started arriving. I opened them at my desk at work, during lunch, when no one was watching. My hands were steady, but my heart wasn't. The first application had my name, my social security number, my date of birth, but the signature was loopy, slanted to the right. My handwriting is small and straight. It wasn't even close. The email address listed Linda Yates, 1973, gmail.com. My mother's email. The phone number, her cell. The second application. Same story. Third. Same. Fourth, the auto loan, had a scanned copy of my driver's license attached. The same one I'd let her photocopy 4 years ago. I sat there looking at the evidence. Her handwriting, her email, her phone number, my name, my debt. I scanned everything, saved copies to 3 different cloud services. Then I bought a USB drive and backed up the files again, kept it in my desk drawer at work. If this ever went to court, if it ever went anywhere, I would have proof. But proof of what, exactly? That my own mother was a criminal? I wasn't ready to answer that question yet. I called the legal aid number Marcus gave me. A paralegal answered, patient and professional. I explained the situation again, the accounts, the forged signatures, the proof I'd gathered. She listened, then sighed. Not an unkind sigh. Just the sigh of someone who'd heard this story before. Here's the thing, she said. To successfully dispute these accounts and get them removed from your credit, you'll need to file a police report. I felt my stomach drop. A police report. The creditors won't take your word for it, she continued. They need official documentation that fraud occurred. Without a police report, they can just say you authorized these accounts and forgot. But if I file a police report, you'd be reporting your mother for identity theft. Yes. The line went quiet. She let me sit with it. I know it's not easy, she said finally. Most people in your situation don't report. They just eat the debt, or they spend years trying to prove fraud without official backing. The ones who do report, they get their lives back. I thanked her and hung up. Then I sat in my car for 30 minutes. I thought about my mom teaching me to ride a bike, making me soup when I was sick, staying up late to help me with homework. I thought about her screaming at me, demanding my money, driving a car she put in my name without asking. I wasn't sure which version was real anymore. Maybe both. Maybe that was the worst part, that someone could love you and steal from you at the same time. Tears slid down my face, silent and hot. I didn't want to destroy her, but she was already destroying me. That night, I started recording every conversation with my mother, every single one, just in case. I made a list. It sounds clinical, I know, But I'm an accountant. When things get overwhelming, I make lists. I break problems into columns and rows until they're small enough to handle. This time, I made 2 columns. What I lose if I report. What I lose if I don't. Column 1. My relationship with my mother. Maybe forever. The judgment of relatives who would only hear her side. The guilt of knowing I sent my own mom into the legal system. Peace of mind, at least in the short term. Column 2. My credit score. For the next 7 to 10 years. The ability to rent an apartment. The ability to finance a car. The ability to buy a house someday. Possibly my job. Some employers check credit for accounting positions. My entire financial future. I stared at the 2 columns. One side was feelings. Real, painful, complicated feelings that I couldn't dismiss. The other side was math. Cold, hard, undeniable math. If I stayed silent, I was choosing her temporary comfort over my 40-year future. When I framed it that way, the decision became clearer. Not easy. Nothing about this was easy. But clear. I decided to give her one chance. 30 days. I would tell her what I knew, show her the evidence, and give her 30 days to contact the creditors herself, to admit what she'd done and transfer the debt to her name, to fix it. If she did that, I wouldn't file a police report. We could work it out privately. If she didn't, if she laughed it off, denied it, or tried to manipulate me, then I would do what I had to do. I wasn't choosing revenge. I was choosing myself. Finally. The next step was telling her. And this time, I'd be recording. I found her in the kitchen that evening. She was making dinner, humming to herself like the last 2 weeks hadn't happened, like we were just a normal mother and daughter on a normal Tuesday night. I sat down at the table. The recording app was already running in my pocket. We live in a one-party consent state, I'd checked. Mom, we need to talk. She didn't turn around. About what? I know you opened those accounts. I have the original applications, your handwriting, your email, your phone number on every single one. She stopped stirring, her shoulders tensed. For 5 full seconds, I counted. She didn't move. Then she turned around. Okay, fine, she said. I did it. But it's your job to help me. I raised you alone. I felt the words hit me like a physical blow. Not because they were surprising, because they were exactly what I expected. And that made them worse. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I kept my voice flat and steady. I'm giving you 30 days, I said. Contact the creditors, admit what you did, transfer the debt to your name. If you do that, I won't go to the police. She laughed. Actually laughed. You wouldn't dare. You'd destroy your own mother? I'm not destroying anyone, I said. I'm giving you a chance to fix what you broke. She crossed her arms, chin lifted, that familiar dismissive look settling over her face. 30 days? She repeated mockingly. Or what? Or I file a police report. And I show everyone, Brenda, Joe, everyone, exactly what you did. Her smile faltered. Just for a second. Then she scoffed, waved her hand, and turned back to the stove. You won't do it, she said. You don't have the spine. The timer started that night. Day 1. The first week was quiet. My mom acted like our conversation never happened. She went to work, came home, watched TV, went to bed. Normal. Unbothered. Like she was calling my bluff by pretending there was no bluff to call. I, meanwhile, started planning my exit. I couldn't keep living in that house. I needed space, physical, emotional, financial. So I started looking for rooms to rent, places where I wouldn't need a pristine credit score to get in. A coworker mentioned her friend was looking for a roommate. No formal credit check required since she'd be the primary leaseholder. I met her for coffee, liked her immediately, and put down a deposit that Friday. Week 2, the phone calls started. Not for me. About me. My Aunt Brenda was first. I saw her name on my caller ID and already knew what was coming. "Sarah, honey?" she said, her voice dripping with that concerned but really judgmental tone. "Your mother called me. She's devastated. She says you've been threatening her?" My grip tightened on the phone. "Did she tell you what she did?" "She said it's a misunderstanding, that you're stressed from your new job and taking things out on her." "Honey, she's your mother. She sacrificed everything for you." There it was. The script. Word for word, exactly what my mother would have fed her. "Brenda, I have proof. When the time is right, you'll see it." Silence. Then, "I hope you know what you're doing." I checked in with the creditors on day 15. Had anyone named Linda Yates contacted them? Any requests to transfer debt? No, 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 no. She wasn't going to fix this. She was waiting for me to back down. For the first time in my life, I wasn't going to. Before I continue, let me ask you something. Have you ever had someone in your family spin the story before you could tell your side? That sick feeling when you realize they've already poisoned the well? Drop a comment below. Tell me, would you have waited the full 30 days or would you have gone to the police immediately? And if you're connecting with this story, hit that like button. It helps more than you know, and it tells me you want more stories like this one. All right, back to what happened next. Because day 30 was coming, and my mother still hadn't made a single call. Day 20. My phone exploded. It started with my cousin Maya, then Derek, then an uncle I barely talked to, then a friend of my mother's from church who somehow had my number, all with the same message, different words. Maya's text. "I thought you were better than this. She raised you alone." Derek's voicemail. "Hey, Aunt Linda's really upset. Maybe you should apologize." The church friend was the worst. She left a 3-minute message about honoring thy mother and how family is sacred and how she was praying for my soul. My soul. Because I wanted my mother to stop committing fraud in my name. I realized what had happened. In the 2 weeks since I'd given her the ultimatum, my mother hadn't contacted a single creditor, but she'd contacted everyone else. She built her defense, not legally, that would require admitting what she'd done. No, she built it socially. She called every person who might one day hear my side and gave them her version first. Poor Linda, raising that girl alone for 22 years. And now Sarah's threatening to call the police over some credit cards. Can you imagine? After everything she sacrificed? By day 20, half my extended family thought I was an ungrateful monster. I didn't respond to most of the messages. What would I say? The truth was too complicated for a text, and I wasn't about to defend myself to people who'd already made up their minds. But I saved every message, every text, every voicemail, documentation. Because here's what my mother didn't understand. She wasn't just building her defense, she was building my case. Every person she called was another witness to how far she'd go to avoid accountability. She didn't just steal my credit, she was trying to steal my story. I wasn't going to let her. Day 25. I packed my life into 3 cardboard boxes and 2 suitcases. It's strange how little you need when you're desperate to leave. Clothes, laptop, a few books, the folder of evidence tucked carefully between sweaters, the USB backup in my purse. I waited until my mother left for work. I didn't want a confrontation. I didn't want tears or accusations or another round of guilt trips. I just wanted out. The house was quiet. My footsteps echoed on the stairs. I walked through each room one last time. The kitchen where I'd first seen the credit report, the living room where she'd screamed at me, my bedroom, which hadn't felt like mine in years. I left a note on the table. Simple. Clean. "I'll be in touch about the deadline. Take care of yourself." No return address. No apology. No explanation she didn't deserve. I loaded my car, closed the trunk, and stood in the driveway for a long moment. This was the house I grew up in, the only home I'd ever known. I had memories here, real ones, good ones, buried under all the bad. Birthday parties, Christmas mornings, the time she stayed up all night when I had the flu, Part of me wanted to go back inside, to pretend none of this was happening, to accept the debt, accept the manipulation, accept whatever she decided to do to me for the rest of my life. That part of me was exhausted. I got in my car, adjusted the mirror, and pulled out of the driveway. In the rearview mirror, the house got smaller and smaller until it disappeared around a corner. I didn't slam the door. I just closed it, quietly. Day 25. 5 days left. Day 30. I spent the morning calling creditors. One by one, the same question. Has anyone named Linda Yates contacted you regarding these accounts? No, ma'am. No record of that. Nobody by that name. No contact whatsoever. 4 calls, 4 no's. 0 surprise. I sat on the edge of my new bed, a mattress on the floor of my roommate's spare room, and stared at my phone. The moment I'd been dreading had arrived. I called my mother. She answered on the 3rd ring, her voice bright and casual, like we were about to chat about the weather. Sarah, I was wondering when you'd call. Ready to come home yet? Deadline's today, I said. Have you contacted any of the creditors? A pause, then a sigh. Honey, this has gone far enough. Let's just forget about it and move on. That's a no then. Her tone shifted. Harder now. You're really going to do this? You're going to file some report and drag our family through the mud? I didn't respond. I let the silence stretch. You'll have to live with destroying me, she said. Can you do that? Her voice cracked on the last word. Real emotion or performance? I couldn't tell anymore. Maybe she couldn't either. I took a breath, held it, let it out. I already lived with you destroying me, I said. So yes. More silence. Then she laughed, short, bitter, disbelieving. You don't have the guts. The line clicked dead. She'd hung up on me. I sat there for a long moment, phone still pressed to my ear. My hands were shaking, but my voice hadn't been. That felt like something. Tomorrow morning I would go to the police station. Tonight, I barely slept. The police station smelled like floor cleaner and burnt coffee. I walked in with a manila folder under my arm. Inside, the credit report, all 4 original applications, a transcript of the recording, and a timeline I'd typed up showing when each account was opened. The officer at the front desk directed me to a detective's area. I sat in a plastic chair and waited until a woman approached me. Mid-40s, no-nonsense expression, badge clipped to her belt. Officer Diana Castillo, she said, extending her hand. You're here about identity theft? I nodded and handed her the folder. She sat down across from me and started reading, page by page. Her expression didn't change, but I watched her eyebrows rise slightly when she got to the auto loan. This is your mother's handwriting on these applications? Yes, ma'am. And this recording? She admitted to opening the accounts? Yes, I have the audio file if you need it. She set down the papers and looked at me. Not with pity, I appreciated that. Just direct acknowledgement. This is textbook identity theft, she said. The fact that it's your mother doesn't change the law. I felt something loosen in my chest. I hadn't realized how tightly I'd been holding myself together until someone with authority told me I wasn't crazy. What happens now? I asked. We open a case. I'll contact her for a statement. From there, the DA decides whether to file charges. I swallowed. Could she go to jail? Officer Castillo tilted her head. Possible, but unlikely for a first offense. More probable, probation, restitution, maybe community service. And the fraud flag moves to her record, not yours. She pushed a form across the desk. A pen. I signed my name at the bottom, my real signature. It was done. 2 days later, my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number at first. Then I realized it was the house line. She was calling from the landline instead of her cell. Maybe she thought I'd blocked her. I answered anyway. What did you do? Her voice was different, higher, faster. The confidence from our last conversation was gone. Someone from the police department called me. she continued. They said they're investigating fraud. They want me to come in for questioning. Sarah, what the hell did you do? I told you I would file a report if you didn't fix it. You actually… She broke off. I heard her breathing, ragged and uneven. You actually did it. You actually reported your own mother to the police. You committed fraud in my name. For 4 years. I did it for us. For this family. You think I wanted to struggle? You think I had a choice? There it was. The pivot. Not an apology, an excuse. Not remorse, justification. I kept my voice steady. You had 47,000 choices. You made every single one of them. Silence. Then she started crying. Deep, heaving sobs that crackled through the phone speaker. I'm going to lose everything, she wailed. My job, my house. You want to see me homeless? Is that what you want? I want my future back. That's all I ever wanted. More sobbing. Then, abruptly, anger again. You're going to regret this. When the whole family finds out what you did, they'll find out what you did, I corrected, and they'll hear it from me. The line went dead. She'd hung up again. But this time, there was no callback. No follow-up text. Just silence. She was finally scared. And I didn't feel good about it. But I didn't feel guilty either. The family group chat erupted within hours. I watched my phone light up with notification after notification. Each one a tiny grenade lobbed into the conversation. Aunt Brenda started it. Linda just told me Sarah called the police on her? What is going on? Then Uncle Joe. Wait, what? Police for what? Cousin Derek. Something about credit cards? My mother's response came fast. Sarah is trying to destroy me. She filed a false report. I didn't do anything wrong. She's lying. I watched the messages scroll, watched my mother type her version into existence, watched my relatives react with shock, sympathy, disbelief. Then Uncle Joe asked the question no one expected. Linda, did you open credit cards in Sarah's name or not? The typing bubble appeared, disappeared, appeared again. That's a family matter. No one needs to get involved. Joe's response was immediate. That's not an answer. I still hadn't typed anything. I was waiting. Watching. Cousin Maya sent a private message. Sarah, is this true? Do you have proof? Yes, I typed back. And I'll show everyone when the time is right. She sent back a single word. Okay. In the group chat, the argument continued. Brenda defending Linda. Joe asking questions. Derek trying to mediate. My mother deflecting. But something had shifted. For the first time, not everyone was automatically taking her side. For the first time, someone was asking for facts. I put down my phone and let them talk. Aunt Brenda called me an hour later. I want you both at my house this Sunday, she said. We're going to talk this out like adults. I'll be there, I said, but I'm bringing proof. A long pause, then, fine, bring whatever you have. Sunday. The real confrontation was coming. The week before Sunday crawled by. I couldn't focus at work. I made small mistakes, transposed numbers, missed a deadline on a report. Marcus noticed. He didn't say anything directly, just stopped by my desk with coffee one afternoon. Whatever you're dealing with, he said quietly, you're handling it better than you think. I appreciated that more than I could express. At night, I prepared. I printed fresh copies of everything. The credit report, all 4 original applications, the timeline. I didn't print the recording. That would live on my tablet, ready to play. I organized everything into a manila folder, the same one I'd taken to the police station. Evidence, proof, receipts. On Saturday night, I rehearsed what I would say. Not a speech, just the key points. I didn't want to ramble. I didn't want to cry. I wanted to be clear, calm, and impossible to dismiss. She opened accounts in my name without my knowledge or consent. She forged my signature. She used my identity to fund her lifestyle while I took the bus to class and ate ramen for dinner. Simple, true, undeniable. Sunday arrived gray and overcast. Fitting. I put on a nice sweater. Not too formal, not too casual. I wanted to look like someone telling the truth, not someone staging a performance. The drive to Aunt Brenda's house took 20 minutes. The folder sat on my passenger seat like it had 3 months ago, back when this all started in that leasing office. I pulled into the driveway. My mother's car, the car that started all of this, was already there. I didn't want a scene. I didn't want drama or tears or shouting. But I was done letting her version be the only story. I grabbed the folder and walked to the door. Before I tell you what happened at that dinner, pause with me for a second. Have you ever had to sit across from someone who lied about you, knowing you had the proof to expose them? That anticipation, that weight in your chest, the question of whether you'll actually go through with it. If you know that feeling, drop a comment. I want to hear your story too. And if you're still here, hit subscribe. This channel has more stories like this. People who stopped being the family punching bag and finally fought back. All right, back to Sunday dinner. The room was about to go silent. Aunt Brenda opened the door before I could knock. She looked tired, stressed, the kind of expression you see on someone who knows they're about to referee a fight, but agreed to it anyway. "Everyone's in the dining room," she said. "Let's get this over with." I walked in with my folder pressed against my chest like a shield. The dining room table was set for a meal no one would eat. Plates of food sat untouched in the center. Around the table, Uncle Joe, nursing a beer. Cousin Derek, looking uncomfortable. Cousin Maya, watching me with something like curiosity. And at the far end, my mother. She didn't look at me when I sat down. She stared at a point just over my shoulder, jaw tight, arms crossed. Brenda took her seat at the head of the table. "All right," she said. "We're all here. We're going to talk about this like a family. Linda, Sarah, one of you start." My mother jumped in immediately. "I'll start," she said, her voice already pitching toward victimhood. "My daughter has been threatening me for weeks. She filed a false police report. She's trying to destroy everything I built. 22 years I raised her. Alone. No help from anyone. And this is how she repays me." She gestured at me without looking at me. "She's ungrateful. She's vindictive, and she's lying." The room was quiet. All eyes shifted to me. I didn't respond right away. I let the silence breathe. Let her words hang in the air. Then I unzipped my folder. "I'm not going to argue with her," I said calmly. "I'm going to show you what she did." My mother's eyes finally met mine. For the first time, I saw something flicker behind them. Fear. I pulled out the first document. "This is my credit report," I said, sliding it across the table to Brenda. "Credit score, 487. Total debt, $47,000. In accounts I never opened." Brenda took the paper, her eyes scanning the numbers, her lips pressed into a thin line. I pulled out the next stack. "These are the original applications for those accounts. I requested them from each creditor." I spread them out on the table like playing cards. "This one was opened when I was 18. This one 19. This one 20. And this," I tapped the auto loan application, "this was for a car. $19,000. I looked at my mother. "The car you drive to work every day." She said nothing. Her jaw worked like she was chewing on words she couldn't swallow. Uncle Joe picked up one of the applications. He studied it for a long moment, then looked up. "Linda, this is your email address." My mother's voice came out tight. "Those could be faked. Sarah works in accounting. She knows how to manipulate documents." I handed another application to Maya. "Look at the signature," I said. "Compare it to mine." Maya studied it. Then she pulled out her phone, scrolled to an old birthday card photo I'd posted years ago. My handwriting was visible on the envelope. "These don't match," she said quietly. "Not even close." My mother stood abruptly. "This is ridiculous. I'm not going to sit here and be interrogated by my own family." "Sit down, Linda." That was Joe. His voice was calm but firm. "We're not done." She sat, but her hands were shaking now. I still had one more piece of evidence, The one that would end this. I pulled out my tablet. You said the documents could be faked, I said, my voice steady. So let me play something that can't be. My mother's face went pale. What is that? I tapped the screen. The recording started. First, my voice, tinny through the tablet speaker but clear. I know you opened those accounts. I have the original applications. Your handwriting, your email. Then the silence. 5 seconds of nothing. Then her voice. Okay, fine. I did it, but it's your job to help me. I raised you alone. The room went still. Not quiet. Still. The kind of stillness where no one breathes, no one moves, no one blinks, like time itself had frozen. I watched each face in turn. Aunt Brenda, hand over her mouth. Uncle Joe, staring at the tablet like it had grown teeth. Derek, looking anywhere except at my mother. Maya, watching Linda with an expression I'd never seen before. Something between horror and vindication. And my mother. My mother, looking down at the table, unable to meet anyone's eyes. I stopped the recording. That was the night I gave her 30 days to fix it, I said. She used those 30 days to call all of you and tell you I was lying. Brenda's voice came out hoarse. Linda, you actually did this? My mother didn't answer. She just sat there, shrinking into herself, suddenly smaller than I'd ever seen her. The silence stretched on. 10 seconds. 20. I stood up and gathered my documents. I didn't come here to punish her, I said. I came to tell the truth. Once. To the people who deserved to hear it. No one tried to stop me as I walked toward the door. I paused at the doorway. I hadn't planned to say anything else. The evidence had spoken for itself. But there was one more thing, something I needed to say out loud, for myself as much as for them. I turned back. My mother was still seated, still staring at the table. The rest of the family watched me with expressions ranging from shock to something that might have been respect. Mom. She flinched at the word. Her eyes lifted to mine, wet, red-rimmed, defiant even now. I don't hate you, I said. I probably never will, but I can't let you keep doing this to me. She opened her mouth, tried to speak. You can't just... I kept going, voice calm but final. The police report is filed. The accounts are being disputed. And until you take real responsibility, not excuses, not blame, not tears, I won't be in contact. Her face twisted. After everything I did for you. I held up my hand. Just once. She stopped. You did some things for me, I said. And you did some things to me. I'm done pretending they're the same. I looked around the room. Brenda, Joe, Derek, Maya, all watching. If any of you want to reach out, you know where to find me. But I'm not going to defend myself again. You've seen the proof. You can make your own choices. I tucked the folder under my arm. One last look at my mother. She was crying now, silently, mascara tracking down her cheeks. Part of me wanted to comfort her. That part was getting quieter. I don't hate you, I repeated, but I'm done paying for your choices. Then I turned and walked out. The door closed behind me with a soft click. I didn't look back. The weeks after the dinner were strange. Quiet in some ways, chaotic in others, like the aftermath of a storm. You're relieved it's over, but you're still sorting through what's broken. 2 weeks later, I got an email from one of the creditors. The accounts were under investigation. Payments had been frozen pending resolution. 3 weeks after that, a letter from the district attorney's office. They'd reviewed the case. Given my mother's lack of prior record, they weren't pursuing criminal charges. But she'd be required to sign a civil agreement acknowledging the debt as hers and agreeing to a repayment plan. The fraud flag would move from my credit history to hers. It wasn't prison. Part of me had expected, maybe even wanted, something harsher. But this was real. This was documented. This was her name on the debt she created. My credit score started recovering, 580 after 3 months. Not great, but climbing. The identity theft flag meant creditors would give me a second look instead of an automatic rejection. Aunt Brenda called. I almost didn't answer. I owe you an apology, she said. I should have asked questions instead of assuming. I didn't know what to say. So I just said, thank you. Maya texted. I'm so sorry I judged you. Can we get coffee sometime? I said yes. Uncle Joe didn't reach out directly. But the next month, for the first time in years, he invited me to a family barbecue. My mother wasn't there. I went. It was awkward, but it was something. Not everyone came around. Some relatives stopped talking to me entirely, chose her version even after hearing the recording. That hurt. But it hurt less than I expected. I was finally learning. I couldn't control what they believed. Only what I knew was true. 3 months later, my life looked different. I was still in the same room, mattress on the floor, clothes in plastic bins, nothing fancy. But it was mine. My space, my decisions, my peace. Work was going well. I'd made it through the probation period, gotten a small raise. Marcus and I grabbed lunch sometimes. He never asked about my mother, but he'd nod at me in the hallways like he was proud. I'd started therapy, once a week, on Tuesday evenings, sitting in an office that smelled like lavender and trying to untangle 22 years of guilt from 2 decades of manipulation. It was slow work, but it was work. But my credit score hit 580, then 590. The disputed accounts were slowly falling off my record, replaced by the small, secured credit card I'd opened to rebuild. On-time payments every month, progress measured in points. Then one night, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. But I recognized it anyway. She must have gotten a new phone. I'm sorry, the message said. I know I messed up. I just want you to come home. We can put this behind us. I stared at those words for a long time. Come home. Put this behind us. No acknowledgement of what she'd done. No mention of the debt, the fraud, the forged signatures. Just come home, like I'd been away on vacation instead of fleeing a crime scene. I saved the message. I didn't delete it, but I didn't answer either. That was the hardest part, not the anger. I'd worked through most of that. The hardest part was accepting that sorry with conditions wasn't really sorry at all. Some apologies are just another manipulation dressed in soft words. I set down my phone and made dinner for one. So here's where I am now. My credit score is still climbing. I have a small apartment with a roommate who respects my boundaries. I have a job I'm good at, coworkers who see me as a person, and a therapist who reminds me weekly that guilt is not the same as responsibility. I haven't spoken to my mother in 4 months. Some days that feels like freedom. Other days it feels like grief. Most days it's both. I know some of you listening might be thinking, how could you do that to your own mother? And I get it, I really do. I asked myself that question 1,000 times before I filed that report. I asked it in the police station. I asked it at Aunt Brenda's dinner table. I asked it every time my phone buzzed with a family member telling me I'd gone too far. But here's what I learned. Loving someone doesn't mean letting them destroy you. Family doesn't mean you owe anyone your future. And setting a boundary isn't cruelty, it's survival. I didn't do this to hurt my mother. I did it to save myself. She made her choices. I made mine. I lost a mother, or maybe I lost the idea of the mother I wished I had. But I kept myself. I kept my future. I kept my right to exist as something other than someone else's resource. And for that, I will never apologize. If you're listening to this and you're in a similar situation, maybe not identity theft, but something. Someone who takes and calls it love. Someone who makes you feel guilty for having limits. I want you to know, you're allowed to say no. You're allowed to leave. You're allowed to choose yourself. So let me ask you, how long are you going to wait? Thank you for staying until the end. If this story reminded you of something in your own life, you're not alone. So many of us grew up being the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who was supposed to hold everything together. Sometimes the hardest thing is realizing you're allowed to put yourself down. Drop a comment. Tell me your story. I read every single one. If you want more stories like this, people who stopped being the family ATM and finally said enough, hit subscribe and the bell. And in the description, there's another story I think you'll connect with. Links right there. See you in the next one.